It is said that Africa is the motherland of the human race. Spreading both north and south of the equator, which runs right through the center of the continent, the great nature of Africa overwhelms. The great cycles of nature can be seen repeating endlessly. In Africa, one is truly able to feel the dynamism of the nature world. This great dynamism is Africa itself. Flowing 2,740 kilometers through the highlands of Central Africa is the Great Zambezi River, which is the fourth longest river in Africa. The river originates in an area around the border between Zambia and Angola and flows through 6 countries before emptying into the Indian Ocean. In the wide and gentle river basin is dense tree growth. In the savanna, we find animals like impala and baboons. (1,300 kilometers downstream from the river's origin, a great column of spray rises up into the air. Getting closer, one hears a roaring noise that sounds almost like an earthquake. This is the spectacular Victoria Falls, known locally as Mosi-oa-Tunya, or the smoke that thunders. Victoria Falls is one of the world's great waterfalls, in the company of Iguazu Falls in South America and Niagara Falls in North America. The scenery is as breathtaking as the waterfall, a 1,700-meter wide vertical river that plunges 100 meters down. It is the world's largest curtain of water. At the westernmost extreme of the falls, there is a small waterfall rushing into a chasm. It is called Devil's Cataract. It is thought that tens of thousands of years into the future, Victoria Falls will further extend its width, as the basalt mountainside near Devil's Cataract will have been completely eroded away by then. Downstream from the waterfall on the basalt highlands, there is a series of zigzag-shaped gorges. These are the remains of the past locations of Victoria Falls, as the waterfall has changed locations some 7 times in its 300,000-year history. The Zambezi River flows through the Great Basalt Plateau of South Central Africa. The highlands were formed as a result of large-scale volcanic activity, and basalt, which is a type of lava rock, has a tendency to fracture into vertical gaps in all directions as it cools and solidifies. These fractures, called rock joints, were created every 500 meters to 1 kilometer. As a high volume of water from the Zambezi flows into these fractures, a great crevice is slowly formed. As this crevice enlarges, the waterfall's location slowly moves upstream. The waterfall moves upstream by literally cutting back into the plateau. After this, the Zambezi River dramatically changes. Its width becomes reduced by 95%, from 1,700 meters to 80 meters. Its current also changes from the gentle one upstream to a quick-flowing series of rapids. Because of these changes, the aquatic ecosystem for the fish living in the river is completely different downstream than upstream. The present location of Victoria Falls is its 8th location. After the end of the rainy season, between February and April, the 1,700-meter wide river is full, and some 550,000 tons of water pour over the top of the waterfall during the high water peak at every minute. This massive amount of water, falling at great speeds over the top of the waterfall, raises tremendous columns of spray high up into the air. During the water peak period, the water spray can reach more than 500 meters up into the air, which is visible from 30 kilometers away. "100 meters away from the waterfall, there is a viewing platform. Sightseers become completely drenched by the spray. Although they can hardly see the waterfall through the spray, that and the roaring of the waterfall tells them all they need to know about its enormous power. The spray, which resembles a thick fog, moves up with the wind. This moisture has nurtured a unique forest around the waterfall. The average temperature on the plateau, which is 900 meters above sea level, is a moderate 20 degrees throughout the year. However, the forest around the waterfall receives precipitation from the spraying water year-round. This moisture has nurtured flora that is ordinarily found in a tropical rainforest. There are more than 400 species of plants, including ferns, palms, figs, olives, and acacias. Victoria Falls received its name from the Scottish explorer David Livingstone, who was the first Westerner to visit the waterfall in 1855. He named the waterfall after Queen Victoria. There is always a beautiful rainbow visible over the waterfall, as the strong tropical sunlight is reflected through the many drops of water. The view of the massive quantity of water, as well as the rainbow over the waterfall, along with the roaring from the water crashing down into the great crevice, is awe-inspiring. Livingstone was moved deeply by the waterfall. He described his impressions in his diary as follows. No one can imagine the beauty of this view from anything witnessed in England. It had never been seen before by a European eye, but scenes so lovely must have been gazed upon by angels in their flight. A truly unique sight is visible on nights when there is a full moon. A lunar rainbow, or moonbow, appears in the sky as the bright light of the full moon reflects onto the drops of water from the waterfall. Scottish explorer Livingstone happened upon the great waterfall of Mosi-oa-Tunya, deep in the forest of southern Africa, approximately 150 years ago. Even today, the great roar of Africa continues raising white spray up into the blue sky. Standing 5,895 meters above sea level, Mount Kilimanjaro is the highest mountain in Africa. The only time in which the entire mountain is visible is in the clear morning air. The gentle slopes of the mountain extend as far as the eye can see, dominating the surrounding landscape. Within a circumference of 250 kilometers, the mountain contains various ecological environments, including desert, forest, and glacial. The mountain is often likened to an island in the sky. Approximately 300 kilometers south of the equator, within northeast Tanzania, which is on the Indian Ocean, contains a tropical climate with dry savanna grasslands. Mount Kilimanjaro was born as a result of a series of volcanic eruptions, approximately 750,000 years ago. Since there were 3 separate eruptions, the mountain has 3 main volcanic peaks: Shira, Mawenzi, and Kibo. The base of the mountain is very large. This cloud-piercing mountain, which was born on what is very dry land, drastically impacted the surrounding environment. The foot of the mountain is fully covered in thick tropical forests. Wet winds blown in from the Indian Ocean hit the foot of the mountain, causing as much as 2,000 millimeters of rain a year in that region. This high precipitation provides moisture to the dry soil, thereby nurturing the tropical forests. The size of the forest encircling the mountain, like a giant donut, covers an area of 930 square kilometers. This rich forest, in what is otherwise a very dry land, is an oasis for birds and animals. The Abyssinian black and white colobus, belonging to the colobus family, is an arboreal monkey that is not comfortable on the ground. Since the animal has long lived within the trees, it never developed real thumbs. The blue monkey also inhabits the forests ranging from Central Africa to Southeast Africa. In addition to monkeys, more than 140 species of mammals and 170 species of birds have been confirmed as living in the Kilimanjaro area. This small 5-centimeter long red flower blooms colorfully near the surface of the earth. The plant, Kilimanjaro impatiens, is endemic to the area. The lone and looming Mount Kilimanjaro has nurtured in its shadow a completely different vegetation than that of the surrounding area. The forest, located 2,800 meters above sea level, is known as a cloud forest. Because it is always covered with clouds, it has high humidity with an abundance of aerial plants, such as ferns, moss, and orchids. Passing through the cloud forest, the surrounding landscape changes completely. Clearing the cloud forest, two peaks come into view. Mawenzi, the roughest of the peaks, stands in front. Looming behind is the mountain's main peak, Kibo. In spite of being located over 3,000 meters above sea level, the environment here is extremely severe, with daytime temperatures reaching up to 20 degrees Celsius and nighttime temperatures dropping below freezing. Normally, alpine flora adapts to the cold by becoming smaller. Interestingly, we find very large alpine plants clustered here. A common alpine plant found in Africa is the giant lobelia. This plant, which belongs to the bellflower family, can grow to be 3 meters tall. To insulate itself against the cold, the giant lobelia can save up to 50 liters of sap in its large stem, which is 8 centimeters in diameter. Giant senecio, a member of the Asteraceae family, can reach heights of up to 8 meters. Even after the leaves have died, they do not shed, instead remaining attached to the plant covering the stem. The lower slopes of Mount Kilimanjaro grew further and further outward through repeated volcanic eruptions. On these moderate slopes, a variety of ecological environments and flora can be seen. Over 4,000 meters from the ground, air pressure is practically cut in half. This thin air makes even plant life impossible. All one sees is a desolate high-altitude desert. When the clouds dissipate, the snow-capped Kibo Peak comes into view. The mountain ascends up to the peak at a maximum angle of a steep 45 degrees. The large peak, which is 2 kilometers in diameter, looks down on the sea of clouds. The crater, which recalls past eruptions, has accumulated layers of black ash that keep the snow from building up. The average temperature at the peak is -2 degrees Celsius. In spite of being so close to the equator, because of the year-round snowfall, there is a permanent layer of snow on the mountaintop, which turned into a giant glacier a long time ago. The height of the glacier wall is 30 meters at its tallest. The drop of these ice cliffs is thought to have formed when air that was warmed by the heat of the crater eroded the ice. The glacier on the Bear Mountain peak glistens a brilliant white sheen in the sunshine. Mixed in with the sound of the wind is the sound of ice swelling in the heat of the sun. Only those who can overcome the path of Kilimanjaro can behold the beautiful sight of the sea of red-stained clouds in the morning sun. To see the sublime view from the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, every year some 25,000 mountaineers visit this location from all over the world. Kilimanjaro means the mountain that glitters in Swahili. This cloud-piercing mountain holds within its great embrace all manners of spectacular scenery, from tropical rainforests to sparkling glaciers. A seemingly endless series of cliffs spreads down the eastern portion of Africa. Approximately 40 million years ago, the great tectonic plates, which supported the land from deep beneath the ground, began separating, deeply severing the land above. This resulted in the formation of a 1,000-meter deep fissure in the land, measuring 6,000 kilometers in length from north to south. This great fissure is known as the Great Rift Valley. The tectonic plate movement continues even today, and it is thought that the movement will eventually result in the severing of the continent of Africa into two in the future. The deeper parts of the Great Fissure filled up with water, turning into huge lakes over time. The fissure that is located at the southernmost edge of the Great Rift Valley is Lake Malawi. The lake is long and thin, with a width of 75 kilometers from east to west, and a length of 580 kilometers from north to south. At its deepest, it can reach 700 meters. Due to continual tectonic activity, it is said that the lake is expanding even today by 5 millimeters a year. Occupying 1/5 of the nation, Lake Malawi is an important source of food for the people of Malawi. Fish caught in the lake are dried in the sun before being sold in markets all over the country. For the people living near the lake, it provides fish they can sell to earn a living, in addition to water necessary for their daily lives. Lake Malawi took on its current shape approximately 2 million years ago. There are several rivers flowing into Lake Malawi, but only one river flowing out. This is the gently moving Shire River. Rich green forests, which are home to a variety of animals, surround the lake. A group of hippos eyes us menacingly. This vast lake was created in the great fissure that pulled apart the land. This lake nurtures both the humans and animals living within its protective embrace. Lake Malawi National Park was the world's first freshwater lake to be designated as a World Heritage Site in 1984. The designated area includes Cape Maclear on the southernmost tip of the lake, several surrounding islands, as well as the water zone up to 100 meters from the shore. The reason for the lake's designation as a World Heritage Site is due to its many endemic fish, which uniquely evolved in the lake from a handful of species. These unique fish are particularly plentiful around Cape Maclear's rocky stretch, where hundreds of endemic species can be found. Colorful fish swim around the rocky stretch. Most of these fish are cichlids, which is a beautiful species of aquarium fish. More than 600 species of fish have been confirmed in Lake Malawi, and most of these are cichlids, of which 99% are endemic to the lake. The waters of the lake have been almost completely isolated from other water sources for some 2 million years. In isolated environments such as Lake Malawi, a large variety of species can emerge from very few ancestors. This is known as adaptive radiation, which we can see in this lake's cichlid species. Researchers estimate that the next study will reveal the number of cichlid species to exceed 1,000. A male cichlid is digging a small pit to attract a mate. If the female likes the color and shape of the male, she lays a series of eggs in the pit. After the male fertilizes the eggs, the female quickly puts them into her mouth. Most cichlid eggs are hatched right in the mother's mouth, where they remain until they grow to some extent. The peak breeding season occurs during the rainy season from December to May. However, since water temperatures are high in the lake year-round, breeding also occurs throughout the year. A cichlid is about to prey on some young cichlids that are just emerging from their mother's mouth. It is the law of the jungle. Compared with other fish, cichlids lay fewer eggs. This is the reason they keep the eggs within their mouths, to protect them from predators. As they mature, the fish will go through various stages. For example, some male fish will mimic female characteristics, or, in order to adapt to location and diet, some fish will change their colors. In this way, speciation occurs. One reason for their dramatic speciation is that cichlids are very territorial. Many cichlids eat algae, using their strong teeth to tear it right off the rock. Those that live in sandy areas have adapted to their environment by putting their mouths directly into the sand, eating small creatures that they find there. On the other hand, these cichlids look for food in the sand by drawing in water through their gills and exhaling it through their mouths. The thin, long cichlid mouth has slowly evolved over the years to efficiently eat small fish living in the cracks of rocks. One species of cichlid catches small fish by playing dead. Their methods of adaptation are many. In order to leave as many offspring as possible, cichlids have evolved by speciation by adapting to food sources and slight differences in the environment. This adaptation continues today, now that research can be conducted down to the DNA. Such research is being conducted by scientists all over the world to try and uncover the reasons behind the explosive speciation of cichlid species. Lake Malawi has preserved its pristine natural environment to this day. Because of its significance to evolutionary science, the lake is likened to a freshwater Galapagos. The Selous Game Reserve is the largest game reserve in Africa. More than 750,000 animals live in what is one of Africa's most spectacular remaining natural environments. Tanzania, located in the eastern part of the African continent, close to the equator, is a tropical country with year-round temperatures of more than 20 degrees Celsius. The Selous Game Reserve is located in the southern part of the country and is made up of a flat, vast landscape with an area of 44,800 square kilometers, larger than the island of Kyushu in Japan. This great preserve is a haven for animals, being mostly inaccessible to humans during the heavy rain season. The 100-meter-wide Rufiji River flows through the middle of the Selous Game Reserve. Here and there along the river, hippos form groups of 20 to 30 in number. The 600-meter-long Rufiji River flows even during the dry season, which sees daytime temperatures of more than 40 degrees Celsius. The river is an essential lifeline for all creatures living in the Selous Game Reserve, including more than 750,000 species of animals and 440 species of birds. This giant kingfisher is hitting the fish which it just caught against a tree trunk in order to make it easier to eat. In September, it's the dry season, and the waters of the Rufiji River seem to be hardly moving at all. This is because the altitude of the area is very low, less than 50 meters above sea level, and the land is almost completely flat. During the dry season, animals gather along the river. This is a group of African elephants. Approximately 60,000 African elephants live in the Selous Game Reserve, the largest number in all of Africa. African elephants usually form groups of about 10, which center on the mature females. The females raise the young while males roam alone. As their name suggests, water bucks are animals which are usually found near the water. A group of impala is also gathering around the lake. This region has two rainy seasons, one from March to May and the other from November to the middle of December. During the rainy season, the area receives more than 1,200 millimeters of heavy rain, and the floodwaters form small lakes and marshes. When the waters have withdrawn after the rainy season is over, soft grasses sprout out around the river, which the impala love to eat. The Rufiji River, in addition to the animals, has also nurtured a lush forest along its banks. Approximately 75% of the entire reserve is forest. These are the sharp thorns of the acacia. African elephants are big eaters, consuming roughly 150 to 200 kilograms of bark and leaves a day. They eat the whole branch of the acacia, seemingly unworried about the sharp thorns. Giraffes eat the leaves and nuts at the upper section of the tall trees, wrapping their 40-centimeter long tongues around the leaves. The trees, which grow thick in the Selous Game Reserve, hide the appearance of animals, as well as nurture an abundance of undergrowth, which the herbivorous animals eat. Hartebeest live in groups of several dozen in the shade of trees, in order to protect themselves from carnivorous animals. A male greater kudu with long spiral horns arrives in the forest along with its family, in order to nibble on the first sprouts of new leaves on the trees. The male is always alert, ready to protect its family from predators at any time. Within the forest, herds of blue wildebeests can be seen mingling and cooperating with herds of zebra. Utilizing the outstanding vision and hearing of the zebras along with the blue wildebeest's keen sense of smell, the two species are more efficiently able to detect predators and run away in large groups. Herbivorous animals are naturally afraid of carnivorous animals. In the reserve, nearly 10,000 strong predators can be found, including lions and leopards, which are at the top of the food chain. The lion, having just finished hunting, is resting leisurely, a good sign that it has a full stomach. Lions are able to live without food for several days after a full meal. The time when lions hunt is mainly at night, from dusk onwards. They usually hide between trees in the forest before bounding out at great speeds to catch their prey. Spotted hyena, which eat off the flesh of dead animals, is a superior hunter. More than 1,000 African hunting dogs, which hunt for large-sized prey in groups, have also been confirmed in the Selous Game Reserve. In the reserve, herbivorous animals cannot let down their guard, day or night. Within the reserve, there are both herbivorous animals and carnivorous animals which eat herbivorous animals. This harsh rule of the jungle is something that keeps the delicate balance of the ecosystem in check. The animals living in the Great Reserve live under natural laws that have not changed for hundreds of millions of years. In the dry season, animals drink from and play in the slow-moving river water. Great untamed wildlife unfolds wherever the eye rests. At night, white-fronted bee-eaters are returning to their nests along the riverbanks. The Selous Game Reserve is nurtured by the rich waters of the Rufiji River. In this great animal reserve, where wild animals run free in untamed nature, time seems to have stood perfectly still. The Republic of Senegal is a tropical country located in the westernmost part of the African continent. The capital, Dakar, faces the Atlantic Ocean and is well known as the final destination of the Paris-Dakar Rally. Traveling approximately 350 kilometers north of Dakar along the coast, one reaches the mouth of the Senegal River. The Senegal River divides into many tributaries around the river mouth, forming a vast delta. In this delta, a wetland with thick reeds spreads as far as the eye can see. In the wetland, many small separated rivers flow like a great maze. Colorful bee-eaters and kingfishers sing beautifully along the river. The deeper we advance into the interior of the wetlands, the more birds we find. The Juge National Bird Sanctuary serves as an important preserve for the birds of the area. The wetland sanctuary is 40 square kilometers in area and includes swamps, lakes, and reed fields that provide a resting place for up to 3 million birds. This is a white-winged tern. Next to these birds are some white-faced whistling ducks. Many species of heron can be found in the sanctuary, including little egrets, gray herons, cattle egrets, and purple herons. Beautiful water lilies bloom along the Juge River, which flows through the wetlands. The approximately 30-centimeter-long birds flying over the flowers are African zasanas. By spreading their weight on their incredibly long toes, they are able to adroitly walk on the leaves. Senegal cuckoos, a member of the cuckoo family, sing with exquisite voices. A white-winged tern nosedives, aiming for a fish in the water. This time, it's missed its mark. These ball-shaped objects hanging down from the tree branches are the nests of the village weaver. During their breeding period, the male bird carries reeds from the wetland and uses his beak to weave a nest. Females choose their mates based on the quality of the nests. For this reason, nest building is a serious endeavor for the males. In the year 2000, the Juge National Bird Sanctuary, which serves as an important preserve for the birds of the area, was put on UNESCO's World Heritage in Danger list. This is due to declining water quality, resulting from various dangerous levels of contamination in the wetland area, caused by local land development practices. The vast reed fields have long helped purify the water in the wetland, turning into important sources of nutrition for algae and plankton after they decompose. The fish, which feed on the algae and plankton, then turn into food for the birds. The reed fields also serve as places for the birds to build their nests. When water levels rise during the rainy season, reeds do not sink because they are hollow inside. Birds are thus able to raise their young in the nests they built in the reed field. The reeds, having up to this point served so many functions in the ecosystem, are now decreasing due to contamination. This wetland ecosystem, which has so long protected the creatures living within it, is now itself in danger of being destroyed. It is not only birds that make the reed fields their refuge. Warthogs eat the reeds. This wetland is also a preserve for warthogs, as they have no natural enemies here. In November, when the rainy season is over, new visitors arrive in this haven for birds. White pelicans are large-sized migratory birds with 3-meter-long wingspans. Flying from the distant wetlands of Europe to Africa, they travel over 3,000 kilometers to breed. Despite their large bodies, these birds are extremely sensitive. They have chosen an area in the marsh surrounded on all 4 sides by reeds. It seems that this place is going to be their home for a while. Although they are referred to as white pelicans in English due to their color, during mating season, they take on a pinkish hue. For this reason, they are called pink pelicans in Japanese. White pelicans have long 40 to 50 centimeter bills with yellow bill pouches. The bill pouch serves both as a net for catching fish and also for adjusting its body temperature. In the summer, when temperatures get hotter outside, the white pelican can lower its body temperature by spreading out its bill pouch. The coloration around the pelican's eyes is unique as well. In the males, it is yellow, and in the females, pink. During mating season, this coloration deepens as well. The white pelicans start moving their wings and take off as a group. They are off to look for fish to eat. The pelicans eat several kilograms of food a day and act in flocks, even when catching fish. Forming a line, they take turns to look for fish. After spending a month in the reeds, a flock of white pelicans builds its nests on an island in the wetland. The females lay several eggs. After the eggs hatch, they begin to raise their baby chicks. The newborn chicks are protected by the flocks and are commonly raised within them. During the dry season, white pelicans build their nests here and there. The entire area seems covered with more than 5,000 birds. The Juge National Bird Sanctuary, being nurtured by the rich reed fields, is a paradise for birds. In order to bring the birds back, work is now being done to improve water purity, to revitalize these great wetlands. This is slowly but surely making a difference. Much has been accomplished, but much work remains to be done to make this wetland once again a place where the great white pelicans can safely raise their young. There still remain many little-known fantastic natural wonders in Africa. There exists a great paradise for birds at the end of the desert. A dense jungle containing trees with gigantic leaves and uniquely shaped rocky mountains stands on an isolated island, which harks back to the dawn of humanity. Africa is truly a continent of wondrous sights. The Sahara, which lies within the African continent, is the world's largest desert. The vast, dry, and sandy desert stretches approximately 5,000 kilometers from the Nile River on the east to the Atlantic Ocean on the west. In the winter, the Harmattan wind blows the sands of the desert from the east, sweeping them west. Desert sands are blown across the Sahara before reaching the Atlantic Ocean on the coast of Mauritania. Over time, this sand has filled up the sea, forming a vast tideland known as Banc d'Argonne National Park. Mauritania is located in northwest Africa. Three-fourths of the nation is covered in the sands of the Sahara. November is the time when migratory birds stop in the park. The park lies around the halfway point on the migratory route of birds that come from Europe to pass the winter in Africa. Some 7 million migratory birds are said to take this route every year, and during peak season, from November to December, 30% of those 7 million are set to stop at Banc d'Argonne National Park. Little terns, in the same family as seagulls, feed on small fish swimming near the surface of the seawater. Snipes and plovers stop in groups and use their long beaks to search for creatures to eat in the sand. Over 100 different species of birds have been confirmed in Banc d'Argonne National Park. Breeding birds in the park include various species of egrets and cormorants. These tidelands formed by the Sahara Desert have created a paradise for birds, which keep away not only humans, but wild animals as well. The depth of the water is only about 5 meters, even in full tide. When the tide ebbs twice a day, the waters withdraw about 60 kilometers, exposing the large tideland. The tide pools are home to a large variety of marine creatures that the birds feed on. The birds feed on small creatures, such as small fish, shellfish, and crabs. The coast along the park is situated on a point in which the warm ocean current from equatorial waters and the cold ocean currents flowing from Europe converge. These marine conditions have nurtured an abundance of plankton and marine life. There are some migratory birds that travel distances of more than 10,000 kilometers. Bangda-Gon National Park serves as a stopover for these birds. If the environment here were to ever disappear, migratory birds would be unable to cross the Atlantic flyway. Flying freely between continents, these migratory birds play a very important role in the ecosystem, and it is said that if migratory birds were unable to complete their migrations, the Earth's overall natural environment would be affected. When the sun comes out, birds begin taking off in flocks. The birds, incapable of seeing at night, begin looking for suitable places with enough food to roost at the crack of dawn. The birds move in line over the water's edge, which is constantly being transformed by the flow of the sea. A group of flamingos has just arrived in the park. The flamingos migrate from Europe to Africa every fall. Greater flamingos, which are the largest species of flamingo, have colorful pink wings. Greater flamingos reach 140 centimeters in height. Flamingos, which are very cautious by nature, usually move around in groups, remaining alert as they look for food. The birds with gray wings have not yet matured. Born in Europe in the spring, the chicks migrate to the African continent together with their parents. The color of their feathers is due to their diet, which is rich in blue-green algae. Pigments from this vegetative plankton build up in their bodies, turning their feathers deep pink. This chick's feathers, like its parents, turned pink when it arrived in the park. These great white pelicans are migratory birds that migrate from Europe every fall, stopping along the way in Bangda-Gon National Park. Their big bills are not only used to swallow fish in big gulps of seawater, but also function to adjust body temperature. The bird's feathers, normally white, turn pink during their breeding season. After stopping at Bangda-Gon National Park, many migratory birds, including the white pelican, continue down south to their wintering destinations. A dry land without forests or grasslands, this region receives as little as 40 millimeters of rain a year. Even along the coast, not only are there almost no carnivorous animals, there are hardly any birds of prey. The park is, therefore, a safe stopping place for these migratory birds. Year after year, migratory birds repeat their great crossings between Europe and Africa. Bank d'Agon National Park is an essential part of this migration, serving as a haven for these birds on their long journey. The Seychelles, a country of some 115 large and small islands floating in the Indian Ocean, is a land of perpetual summer. Situated 4 degrees south of the equator, the Seychelles are a famous resort area. Coral reefs surround these islands, where white sand beaches extend as far as the eye can see. About 50 kilometers northeast of the island of Mahé, where the capital Victoria is located, is the small island of Prolong, which has a circumference of 13 kilometers. The island, which is composed of granite, separated from the African continent about 180 million years ago, due to a movement in the Earth's crust. About 80% of the island is covered in forest. Since the island is approximately 1,600 meters away from the African continent, most of the animals and plants on the island are endemic. These are white flowers of the Bois Rouge. This flower belongs to the Dilleniaceae family. The Seychelles blue pigeon has red coloration only on its head. A Seychelles black parrot is eating some red nuts off a tree. The Seychelles bulbul is another species endemic to the area. Thick virgin forests spread up the slopes in the center of the island. This is the Vallée des Mailles Nature Reserve, UNESCO's smallest World Natural Heritage Site. The mountain stream flows gracefully between the tall trees. The reserve has a tiny area of only 0.2 square kilometers. Entering the forest, one is overwhelmed by how large the leaves are. Because of their size, the valley is sometimes called Valley of Giants. Here, giant palm trees grow thickly near each other, covering most of the sky. There are 6 species of endemic palm trees on Prolong Island. These palm tree leaves, measuring up to 3 meters in length, are so big that long ago they were used as roofs for houses. When Prolong Island separated from the African continent, It is thought that these palm trees had already been growing here. Since they had no other non-endemic plants to compete against on this isolated island, the palm trees evolved into giant forms. Being located close to the equator, the island has a tropical rainforest climate. It is thought that the hot and humid climate, which sees more than 2,000 millimeters of rainfall a year, has been what has nurtured the growth of these giant palm trees. The Decenia nobilis species can grow as tall as 30 meters. The vine-like extensions hanging down the tree are flowers. When ornamental-looking buds burst open like little torpedoes, the flowering branches spill out. This is a screw pine, which belongs to the genus of Pandanus. On the upper portion of the tree, clusters of nuts are visible. One cluster, composed of a reddish fiber, is more than 20 centimeters in length. These nuts are a favorite snack of the birds and bats of the forest. The coco de mer tree grows the largest seeds in the world. With a circumference of more than 50 centimeters, it is said that it takes about 40 years for the tree to produce a mature fruit after the bud appears. This tree is estimated to be over 400 years old. There are both male and female coco de mer trees. This hanging brown catkin, which is about 50 centimeters long, has yellow male flowers which produce pollen. The female pistiliferous flowers form in gourd-shaped groups. Each flower is pollinized on its tip. It will take 6 years for the fruit to ripen after pollination. The seeds are protected by a hard external husk. Since the fruit will drop from a height of over 20 meters, the 3 centimeter thick fibrous husk serves to cushion the seeds from cracking upon impact. A sweet coconut-like fragrance is emitted from the peeled nuts. People used to gather these nuts to eat. However, this is now prohibited. The seed, which weighs over 20 kilograms, is not easy to transport. The seeds were once thought to have been dispersed by the sea, and were thus given the name coco de mer, or sea coconuts. Because of their symmetrical shape, they are also known as double coconuts. When cracking open the seed, we find that fleshy white endosperm fills up the cavity, just like a coconut. This is what provides the necessary nutrition for the plant to germinate. This island was long uninhabited, being fully covered with virgin forests containing trees, including coco de mer trees. In later years, when France then England occupied the island, these unique and huge nuts were taken recklessly, and the forests were cut down to make room for coffee plantations. Only the Valle de Mai was left untouched, since the area was not suitable for cultivation or farming. Many endemic creatures inhabit this forest. The prawn snail has a shell which measures more than 10 centimeters in length. This is a bronze-eyed gecko. Seychelles flying foxes, which are fruit-eating bats, usually make their appearance in the evening. Praslin Island separated from the African continent due to movement in the Earth's crust from around 180 million years ago. The environment of this long, isolated island has allowed the flora and fauna to gradually evolve in unique ways. The Valle de Mai is a small nature reserve that has nurtured various large-sized species of plants that do not exist anywhere else in the world. The Republic of South Africa is the southernmost country on the African continent. Located on the east coast of the country is Greater St. Lucia Wetland Park. The size of the park is approximately 2,400 square kilometers. In the park, one can experience the great mosaic of African nature, from marine life and beaches to grasslands, lakes, wetlands, forests, and rivers. The various ecosystems were formed due to the park's location right on the border between the tropical and subtropical climate zones. Greater St. Lucia Wetland Park is a UNESCO World Natural Heritage Site, in which the various ecosystems of Africa are all gathered together, and is a place which symbolizes the African continent itself. Approximately 220 kilometers of coast lines the east part of the park. Many colorful fish inhabit the shallow waters, which are full of coral. This ocean, located at a latitude between 26 and 28 degrees south, is Africa's southernmost coral reef. The warm current flowing in from the Indian Ocean keeps water temperatures warm throughout the year. Within these waters, 350 species of fish can be seen. This is approximately 85% of all fish that inhabit the coral reefs in the Indian Ocean. This rainbow-colored fish belongs to the parrotfish family. Immature emperor angelfish have ring-like patterns, like the growth rings on trees. Moorish idols have very long dorsal fins. The coral reefs are the ideal habitat for colorful fish. Greater St. Lucia Wetland Park's long sandy beaches consist of coral sand, made from disintegrated coral reefs and shells, mixed in with the sand carried in by the river. Strong easterly winds from the Indian Ocean blow in along the coast throughout the year. Sand from the sea is carried to the coast by these winds. This sand built up along the coast, and after about 25,000 years, sand dunes of approximately 150 meters in height were formed. Forests have sprouted up around these dunes. The dune forests of Greater St. Lucia Wetland Park are one of the largest in the world. The tall dunes separate the land from the sea like a great wall. Inland, we find a large lake and grassland. Many rivers flow into the park. Water from the rivers flowing toward the sea was blocked by the tall wall of sand dunes and filled up the inland sea. This was the process that created Lake St. Lucia. The lake, which was created along with the dune, is thin and long, about 15 kilometers in width and 35 kilometers in length. During high tide, seawater actually pours into the lake via the rivers. Lake St. Lucia, therefore, is a brackish lake in which fresh water and seawater are mixed. Mangrove trees, which can be found where there is salt water, grow thickly along the circumference of the lake. Many aquatic animals inhabit the lake. Hippos can be widely seen in the rivers and lakes south of the Sahara Desert. Nile crocodiles grow up to 7 meters in length and mainly eat the fish in the lake. Part of the lake dries up during the dry season, creating a tidal wetland, which has been designated as a wetland of international importance for migratory birds by the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands. Migratory birds, such as snipes and plovers, migrate all the way from Europe in the winter, traveling several thousand kilometers. "521 species of birds, or roughly 60% of all birds that can be seen in South Africa, have been confirmed as living in the park. "140-centimeter-long Goliath herons, which are the largest species in the heron family, are only found in Africa. The Egyptian goose has a distinctive red coloration around its eyes, and the males perform an elaborate display of courtship. Mates form breeding pairs in the fall, building their nests in the grasslands near the lake. During the dry season, there are areas where grass springs up when the water dries up in the wetland. Depending on the season and the amount of rain for that year, the same location at any given time can turn into a lake, wetland, or grassland. Many of Africa's representative herbivorous animals can be found in the park's grassland areas. Plain zebras are widely distributed throughout the grassland areas from eastern to southern Africa. The animals move in families over a wide range, looking for grass to eat. The white rhinoceros is in serious danger of extinction. There are two species of rhinoceros, white rhinoceros and black rhinoceros, both of which can be found in Greater St. Lucia Wetland Park. White rhinoceros mainly eat grass, while black rhinoceros prefer tree leaves and small branches. Blue wildebeest are bovines that have striped patterns on their bodies from the neck down. This is a male greater kudu. It takes the animal 5 years to grow its beautiful horns. Prior to 1974, the year when the area was designated as a national park, hunting was allowed here. For this reason, every last lion and leopard has disappeared from the park. Because there are few carnivorous animals living here, the herbivores thrive. The beautiful ocean with its coral reefs, along with sand carried in by the rivers, built up the towering sand dunes. These sand dunes then created the lake, wetlands, grasslands, and forests of Greater St. Lucia. If even one of the natural conditions had been absent, this spectacular area would not exist as it does today. Here, animals flourish in the rich natural environment. Greater St. Lucia Wetland Park is a place where all of South Africa's natural wonders seem to have been brought together. The Republic of Senegal is located on the westernmost part of Africa. In the southernmost part of the country, along the border with Guinea, is Niokolo-Koba National Park. Flowing through the center of the park is the 700-kilometer-long Gambia River. The river flows through 3 countries, Guinea, Senegal, and Gambia, before pouring into the Atlantic Ocean. Various biological ecosystems have been nurtured by this great river. Niokolo-Koba National Park is said to have the largest number of wild animals in West Africa. The 9,100 square kilometer park is located about 600 kilometers east of the capital of Dakar. It is a lush landscape composed of grasslands and forests. Along the banks of the Gambia River, we find a riverine forest. A riverine forest is a forest that grows up along a river from seeds that were carried by the river, and a nutrient-rich soil that was also brought in by the river. Riverine forests are usually green all year round. This cob, a herbivorous animal, has come to drink water. In the local language, Niokolo-Koba means river where cobs gather. Cobs are found widely across Central Africa, with as many as 10,000 confirmed as living in the park. Walking toward the Egyptian plover is a Nile monitor lizard, which is the largest lizard in Africa. The red-throated bee-eater has colorful green wings, and, as its name suggests, it catches and eats flying bees. The giant kingfisher, measuring more than 40 centimeters in length, is the largest species in the kingfisher family. Perched on a branch over the river, the bird is waiting for some small fish or other river creature to prey on in the waters below. The giant kingfisher can only be found in Africa. A group of Guinea baboons are playing up in a tree. At around 80 centimeters in height, these baboons are smaller than other baboon species. They inhabit a small area in West Africa, from Senegal to Guinea. There are plenty of coconuts in the forest, which is one of the Guinea baboon's favorite treats. The baboons are able to cleverly scoop out and devour the coconut meat. Savanna monkeys are resting in the shade of a tree. Due to their greenish coat, they are also known as green monkeys. They are much smaller than Guinea baboons, and mainly eat nuts and leaves. They pick out young leaves to eat, as they are particularly heavy in nutrition. There are currently 80 different species of mammals and 330 species of birds that have been confirmed in Niokolo-Koba National Park. The park is able to support such a large diversity of animals because it has remained preserved in its original natural environment for so long. Senegal remained a French colony up to the 1950s. In the 1920s, the Niokolo-Koba area was set aside as a private hunting ground, which commoners was strictly forbidden to enter. In recent times, natural environments in West Africa are rapidly decreasing due to agricultural land development. However, after gaining independence from the French, the Niokolo-Koba area was set aside as a national park and has been protected ever since. November is the time when the rainy season ends and the dry season begins. During this season, the Gambia River flows gently. However, driftwood can be seen hanging high up in the trees along the river downstream. During the rainy season, water levels rise some 7 meters due to the heavy rainfall. The Niokolo-Koba area has a very distinct rainy season and dry season. During the rainy season, between June and October, the area receives approximately 1,000 millimeters of rain, which is almost equivalent to the rainfall the area receives during the entire year. There is rarely any rain whatsoever during the dry season between November and May. Though the flooded water from the river during the rainy season causes marshes to spring up, these wet areas completely dry out when the dry season arrives. This hammercorb has come around looking for small fish to eat. The bird received its name for its uniquely shaped head. The marshy areas are important places for all creatures. Various kinds of grass and small trees grow thickly in the marshy areas, which become food for herbivorous animals. In addition, the grassy areas are excellent places for herbivorous animals to hide from the large carnivorous animals, including lions and leopards, which continue to live in the park to this day. During the dry season from November to May, the grass fields become completely dried out. A cob is running. One of its horns has been broken off, most likely in a fight with another cob. During the dry season, a scarcity of water and food causes many fights between animals. Warthogs are distributed widely in the grasslands south of the Sahara Desert. These animals received their name due to the large bumps they have on the sides of their eyes, which look like warts. The yellow-billed oxpecker, which belongs to the gray starling family, is hitching a ride on the back of a warthog. This bird eats mites, fleas, and other parasitic insects that live on warthogs or other larger animals. This is a patas monkey. These animals are able to run at speeds of up to 55 kilometers per hour. Here it is scraping at the bark of a tree with its teeth, trying to suck out some tree sap. Animals enjoy the blessings of the grasslands and forests in different ways. Although small in number, African elephants can also be spotted in the deep forest of the park. In the dry season, many animals such as lions gather at the river. Niokolo-Koba National Park is the finest animal reserve in West Africa, and the life-giving Gambia River continues to flow in rich splendor to this day. Grandidier's baobab tree. It is as if they are upside down, with roots growing on the top of their trunks instead of beneath the ground. The tree grows up to 20 meters in height. Chlorophyll is contained not only within the tree's leaves, but within its trunk as well. For this reason, the tree carries out photosynthesis throughout the year. Floating off the coast of Africa in the Indian Ocean, the Republic of Madagascar is the fourth largest island on Earth. It is said that the current shape of Madagascar was formed approximately 100 million years ago. Having originated in the tropical areas of Africa, baobab trees have evolved uniquely in Madagascar. Currently, there are 8 species of baobab growing here. About 400 kilometers away from the African continent, Madagascar contains many little-known natural wonders. About 200 kilometers west of the capital of Antananarivo, a grey landscape comes into view. This is Tsingy de Bemaraha Strict Nature Reserve. The reserve covers an area of approximately 1,500 square kilometers. Within the reserve, extending about 100 kilometers from north to south, peaks rise up like needles, one after another, without any room in between. The local people call this place Tsingy, meaning impassable place. Humans, as well as animals, find it nearly impossible to climb these hard, needle-sharp peaks. The Manambolo River flows down to this area from the plateau located in the center of the island. Large, unusually shaped rocks line both sides of the river. The rocks were formed out of the area's layer of limestone, which had been deeply eroded by river and rainwater. Because this region was once underneath the sea, limestone, which is formed from coral reefs and shells, make up a large part of the strata here. The thickness of the limestone layer is more than several hundred meters. The entire area has a subtropical climate and receives about 1,000 millimeters of rainfall annually. During the rainy season, the Manambolo River becomes swollen, flooding the valley. Due to its high alkalinity, limestone chemically erodes when it comes into contact with acidic rainwater. Trickling through cracks in the rocks, rainwater eroded away 30 meters of rock. This eventually resulted in the formation of these raised peaks. The tips of these rocky peaks are sharp as needles. On the surface of the rocks, we find vertical stripes, which are the traces that were left behind from rainwater eroding the rocks. The path of erosion is clearly visible. After countless rainfalls, the upper portions of the rocks have become so thin that they become saw-edged. Such an appearance must have taken tens of thousands of years of rainfall to create. As if to fill in the niches, plants pop up in cracks within the rocks. 85% of the plants on Madagascar, some 10,000 species, are endemic to the island. Since the environment differs in the upper and lower parts of the rocks, different species of plants grow in either part. On the upper rocks grow dry-resistant plants, which are capable of saving water in their trunks. This plant belongs to the aloe family. Though it can now be found anywhere in the world, aloe originates from Madagascar. Pachypodium belongs to the Apocynaceae family. The plant, which has roots that take hold deeply within the rocks, is also endemic to the island. Thick forest has also grown below, in the shadow of the rocks, where there is plenty of water. The trees expand into the gaps between the rocks. The broadleaf deciduous forests seemingly go on forever. This area receives only a limited amount of sunlight. In order to receive as much sunlight as possible, trees stretch out their branches upward, as if trying to touch the sky. Lemurs move freely around the forest. Lemurs are Paramecians that originated on the island of Madagascar. Deccan's sifaka are fully covered in white fur. This lemur inhabits the forests on the western part of the island, mainly eating new spouts and nuts off the trees. Sifakas leap adroitly from branch to branch. The fingers in their feet are just like those on their hands, which enable them to catch hold of a branch easily. Brown lemurs can be found all over the island of Madagascar. There are both diurnal and nocturnal lemurs. Since the brown lemur has excellent night vision, it is active both during the day and at night. These lemurs are eating figs. A lemur's dietary habits vary, depending on the species. Because some lemurs eat fruit and others eat immature or mature leaves, various species are able to live together in one area. Weighing only 1 kilogram, this small nocturnal lemur, called a Milne-Edwards sportive lemur, usually rests snuggled in between tree branches during the day. Simians, such as apes and humans, branched off from Paramecians about 50 million years ago. Prior to this, Madagascar broke off from the continent, becoming an isolated environment. Because of its isolation, simians did not evolve on the island, and lemurs flourished, evolving into 46 species. Since the appearance of lemurs, the environment on Madagascar has changed very little. At the same time the lemurs adapted themselves to the environment, the unique environment on the island has continued to nurture these animals over a long stretch of time. There are a few carnivorous animals that inhabit the island, but due to the largely inaccessible topology, they are rarely seen. Tsingy's peaks protect various other unique animals. The animals seem to have peaceful and relaxed expressions on their faces. The harsh landscape of Tsingy de Bemaraha Strict Nature Reserve has served to protect the precious animals and plants which live within its embrace.